The Orlando Magic got the absolute best news they could get. Will it derail their cup hopes? Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 8th. It will be December 9th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Magic get the best news they could have hoped for. Honestly, the best news they could have hoped for. Franz Wagner's injury diagnosis revealed as a high ankle sprain. No ligament damage, none of that. I'll break down what that means and get you set for Tuesday's big NBA Cup battle with the Miami Heat with our friends from Locked On Heat. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right re-upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being a member of our Everydayers Club or being one of our Orlando Magic dailies. That means you listen 5 days a week. That means that you're listening when we do our episodes on the weekends. That means we're part of your regular podcast rotation. That means we are your first listen every day. We're all part of Locked On Podcast Network. Stay tuned for a little bit more on the Everydayers Club. Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. We're going to get to a conversation with David Ramil and Wes Goldberg of Locked On Heat to get you ready for Tuesday's gargantuan, humongous, biggest Magic Heat game since at least 2019, probably not since 1997 or 2010. It is a huge game between the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat. We'll get you set for that game where both the Magic and the Heat are, and a little bit more about what the Magic do without Franz Wagner. So I'm not going to get too much into it because we do talk about this in our first segment with Wes Goldberg and David Ramil, but we got to get the news just straight out and alleviate any concerns for those who have not lived under, who are living under a rock and don't live chronically online like I do. The Magic got the absolute best news they could have hoped for from the MRI, or at least what they've told us, from the MRI on Franz Wagner. After what looked like a pretty painful and pretty devastating knee injury, a fall and a hit that had a lot of Magic fans worrying about the absolute worst and worrying about the worst case scenario, saying that Franz would be out for the year. I was a little more optimistic, but even I wasn't this optimistic. The Orlando Magic reported that Franz, after reviewing the MRI, Franz Wagner suffered a left high ankle sprain. Left high ankle sprain. No ligament damage, no bone bruise, no crazy medical term that we have to go to WebMD to look up and figure like, what is this? According to Shams Charania of ESPN, the MRI showed no structural damage to his knee, and most high ankle sprains means you are out for 2 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks. It's going to be about 15 games if that timeline holds, if that 4-week timeline holds. And again, could be longer. That we're looking at Franz Wagner returning potentially in early January. To say the least, this is about as good of news as the Magic could get. Again, a high ankle sprain, you just have to kind of let it heal on its own, and who knows how that will go. As the Magic always say, Franz Wagner's return will be determined by how he responds to treatment. But this is not season ending. This is not season ending. This isn't playoff threatening. It threatens the Berlin game, which is about the only thing. But if that 4-week timetable holds up, he should be back for Berlin. But Berlin game's in about 5.5 weeks now. It is as good of a news as Magic fans can get. So do your breathing exercises, take a deep exhale, because the season is far from over. Now we're going to talk a little bit later on in the week because we got business to attend to today. We're going to talk a little bit later on in the week how the Magic survive without Franz Wagner and what the Magic have to do to be successful and what's going to happen. But we did just see the Magic go 7-3 without Paolo Banchero. And while Paolo does have to work himself into shape, so I'm going to sit here and say that Magic probably won't win 70% of their games with Franz out. there is no reason to think that once this team starts rolling and finds its rhythm and finds its rotations again, that the Magic won't be able to maintain their 50-win pace, stay in the race for home court advantage, if not for the 2 or the 3 seed, and be able to hit the ground running when Franz returns sometime in January. That is as good of a news as you can get. And that is the only take to have today. Now, there's work to do, and obviously it starts Tuesday with the big game against the Miami Heat. So I don't want to waste too much time because this episode's already going to be pretty long. I don't want to waste too much time. Let's dive into it because Tuesday is a big day. The NBA Cup quarterfinals between the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat. Can the Magic come out on top and advance to Vegas? Let's break it all down with David Ramil and Wes Goldberg of Locked On Heat.
I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with my Locked On Heat co-host David Ramil and the host of Locked On Magic, Philip Rossman-Reich. We've got a ton to get to today, boys, in this special crossover episode for everybody ahead of the NBA Cup knockout round between the Heat and the Magic, a first between these division rivals. We're going to talk about what each team needs to do in order to advance to the semifinals in Las Vegas in a second. But, Philip, I thought we should start with the relatively good news, I guess, out of Orlando, that Franz Wagner suffered what is being called a high left ankle sprain. And why I say it's relatively good news, considering how bad the injury looked at the time, some people thought it could be a season-ending injury. This one, he's going to be out indefinitely, probably a few weeks, but his season does not appear to be over. But what's the reaction been like in Orlando?
Yeah, it's relief. I mean, it's just pure relief. I think when you see an injury like that, and especially see a player who, is writhing on the floor in pain, like, these are tough guys. Like they don't want, they want to be out there playing and to not be able to get up, to be helped to the back. There's photos of him on crutches leaving the arena last night leaving the arena Sunday night in New York to just have it be not like a ligament strain or ligament thing or even a bone bruise, like stuff that feels like very big and scary or have some like fancy medical term attached to it. For them to just describe it as a high ankle sprain feels like it is the absolute best case scenario. It certainly feels like the trip to Berlin is still very much in play. That's 6 weeks from now when the Magic go to Berlin to play the Memphis Grizzlies game. That's very, very important to both Franz and Mo Wagner, and Mo should be back before then as well. It feels like this is going to be not much longer than Paolo Banchero was out. This even as far as the number of games, and there's a lot of faith that Franz is going to be able to recover quickly and be able to contribute to a playoff run later this season.
So for our purposes here, then he's not going to be available against the Heat.
He is out.
Paolo Banchero will be back.
Yes.
He was back for the game over the weekend, so he's back. He's in the fold. He's getting back into his conditioning. But I guess the big question now becomes whether the Magic can continue doing what they were doing with Franz and all the success that they had with him in these lineups, basically with Paolo in that spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that is the big question, and that's a big question I think a lot of people have had about Paolo. He's a numbers guy. Like he's kind of your classic 2000s all-star. He's going to get his scoring numbers. He's going to put up kind of the raw counting numbers that everyone likes to see and associates with being a superstar player. But we're not in the 2000s anymore. We have a deeper understanding of the game, and there's been this narrative about him that he doesn't actually impact winning. And Magic fans would say, well, that's ridiculous. The Magic didn't become a really good team until Paolo arrived. But you look at his on-off numbers, specifically compared to Franz, and Paolo is in the game when the Magic are losing. And whether that's because of Paolo, whether it's because of the lineups he's playing against, that is a fair question to ask, and it's a fair thing to wonder. I will note that this season, the Magic actually have a better on-off net rating with Paolo Banchero on the floor than Franz Wagner on the floor. A lot of that is before the injury, obviously, and Franz certainly picked up some steam when Paolo was out too, as the Magic picked up steam and got more comfortable. But Paolo's on-off numbers, I believe, are still better than Franz's on-off numbers, or the like with or without you numbers, or whatever you want to look at. And so I think there is still a lot of optimism that the Magic will be able to hold the boat steady. After all, this is why you go get a guy like Desmond Bane, who can slide up into that second scorer role like he did when Paolo was out with Franz. This is why you have depth and you rely on your depth a little bit. The Magic should be able to hold the boat steady. It's the only difference now is Franz had a training camp and those first 12 games to kind of keep rolling into the next 10. Paolo's still working his way back from an injury and clearly isn't completely up to speed yet.
David, I'm curious. When you look at the Magic, Paolo and Franz, there's sort of a quiet little debate. Who's better? Where are you at on this?
I just like Franz's overall approach, the way he plays the game. It might be just a slight personal preference, but his versatility, the aggression with which he plays, just his overall style. Like he was having such a fantastic season last year. I thought he was going to be an all-star prior to his injury, and I feel kind of just I was personally kind of just bummed out about it because I thought he was really way towards like a star level kind of approach. And to see him kind of take a step back earlier this season, then finally find his footing, and then to have another injury that might derail that. So for me, I like Franz and everything he does, the way he attacks, the way he makes plays for others, just the simplicity and versatility of his game makes it a lot more personally satisfying for me rather than, and I don't want to say this, but it feels sometimes like their Paulos are kind of empty calorie type scoring. But again, that's just maybe that's the way I'm hardwired as a person who likes versatility in their basketball players. And that's not to say that Banchero isn't. I mean, he is an all-star and deserving of such. I think he's a great player in and of himself. But just personally, I prefer Franz.
Philip, what's sort of the split among Magic fans?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Magic fans are trying not to fall into this trap of comparing the two. Like, let the national media do that. Let the people on the outside do that. But and that's fair. Like, until you win, like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown went through the same thing. I would honestly say, like, LeBron and Wade, as good as they are, they kind of went through the same thing those early years in the Heat era, in their Heat era, before they
one season, Philip. It was one season that they had to figure out.
I mean, obviously, we're
and they still went to the finals. So
yes, they still went to the finals. It's apples and oranges, but like you go through the struggles of like, how do you find the right balance when you have two guys that are kind of on the ball? And I think most Magic fans would say that yes, Paolo has to be a little bit faster with his decision making and faster with how he plays and not hold the ball as much and do some of those things that his critics say. But at the same time, they also recognize that they're not going to get where they want to go. Like they're not going to compete for the Eastern Conference Finals if they don't have both Paolo and Franz, because Paolo is the guy that can get you a tough shot in the playoffs. You go look at his playoff record against Cleveland in the series against Cleveland and Boston. Like, he was undeniably the better player. Like, he was just able to thrive in that environment. Whereas Franz, I think Franz can be a number one guy, and I'm not saying that he can't succeed there. I feel like his preference is always to defer to other people. I just think that's his makeup a little bit, his mental makeup, and that's not a good or a bad thing. But, I don't think Franz would be as successful in a playoff series or in the long run without having a guy like Paolo eating up attention. If you watch Paolo Banchero play, and it's even the case now with him being at whatever speed he's at, 50, 60, 70% speed, he will take three defenders with him every time he goes to the basket. And that's just a gravity that I don't think Franz always has when he's attacking.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. If the Magic want to do what they ultimately want to do, which is, I guess, win the Eastern Conference and make the NBA Finals, you need Paolo to be the best player on the team. And this idea of Franz or Paolo honestly isn't even like a luxury the Magic have to worry about. They need both of them to be really good. Like, they don't get to choose, hey, we could probably just have one and be in the end. No, it doesn't work that way. Paolo is that guy. He is that gravity guy. He is that ultimate advantage creator. He's kind of got that mindset, which I think is an underrated thing as we kind of get into this efficiency landscape in the NBA of willing to take lots of shots. It's just a skill set and a mindset that I think is really underrated among players, and Paolo has that, for better or for worse, a lot of times, but he has it. They kind of need him to be the head of that snake and for Franz to fall into that spot. They need to make it work with those two. I guess the unfortunate thing for the Magic is it's always one of these guys is hurt all the time.
And that's just the last 2 years. And 2 years
but
is
it's their most important years.
I
mean, the most recent years are the most important years.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we haven't seen this Magic team at full strength yet. Last year, Jalen Suggs, Paolo Banchero, and Franz Wagner played only 97 minutes across 6 games together. I believe this year, before the Paolo injury, their starting group of Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Desmond Bane, Wendell Carter had played only 101 minutes together in 12 games. If you sort their line, if you sort the lineups by net rating and say any lineup that's played more than 100 minutes, I believe that lineup is still the best lineup in the league by net rating. It may have slipped after the last few games because Paolo's clearly still working his way back into shape, but we just haven't seen this Magic team at full strength. And I guess the real frustrating part right now is that as we're starting to see the Magic kind of pick up some steam, they get hit with this roadblock, and now they're going to have to figure out how to play together again. And we're not going to see them at their peak. Maybe we'll see it in March and April when it really matters, but it's going to take some time to get revved up again.
We're going to talk about the Miami Heat, who also got some interesting big lineup news and what their lineup is expected to be on Tuesday night. We'll talk about that next here on our crossover episode of Locked On Heat and Locked On Magic.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. And that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines adjusting almost instantly, player props updating as guys heat up, and you can even bet the next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. And who doesn't love staying just plugged into every possession? That's what makes football so great, and FanDuel makes it even better. So if you want to be right in the middle of this action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We'll be right back.
Popping back in once again. Thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Thank you for making us your first listen day. Thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Everydayer Club, because you already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Magic with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to our special website, lockedonmagic.supercast.com. Again, that's lockedonmagic.supercast.com to sign up. Check the link in the show notes to learn more about your Everydayer Club.
Thanks for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen every day, and for making us the #1 sports podcast network, according to FanDuel. The Miami Heat opening as 1-point favorites.
Oh, it's flipped
on the road. It's flipped, I think, with the Franz news now being official, even though it's weird because we knew he was going to be out. So perhaps it flipped because of the news coming out of Miami.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yes, I think the news regarding Tyler Hero, Davion Mitchell, etc., coming back, or that they're probable to play. I think that was the last update we received.
Yes.
Yeah, Mitchell said he's going to play. Now it's not totally up to him.
It's the cup. You got to play. You got to play for the cup.
You got to play for the cup. Okay, are we fans of the NBA Cup?
I am.
You know how I feel about it. Yeah, you've been on the fence about it. You've flip-flopped a couple of times since its inception.
I'm a flip-flopper.
I don't know.
Once you see that trophy, you will be a fan. Once it is in the building.
What is the furthest the Magic have advanced in the cup?
They lost to the quarter. They lost in this round to Milwaukee last year. They were the wild card last year, lost at Milwaukee.
The eventual champs.
The eventual
right?
champions.
The Bucks won it last year. I'm sorry. I cover the league. I should know who's winning the NBA Cup every single year.
There's only two of them.
That's right. It was the Lakers and it feels like it's been around longer, but also these last few years.
We've been talking about a lot longer.
That's true. Okay, so the good injury news, right? Tyler Hero, Norm Powell, and Davion Mitchell are expected to be back in the lineup together for the first time in the last 3 games. The Heat have been on a 3-game losing streak here. It's also coincided with those guys being in and out of the lineup. The last time they played together, they made 24. The Heat, as a team, made 24 3-pointers against the Clippers in a blowout win last week. But David, like I mentioned, the Heat, on the heels of 3 straight losses, including a loss to this Magic team in Orlando on Friday, the Heat are 0-2 against the Magic so far this season. What do they need to do to get their first win against the Magic and advance in the NBA Cup?
That's a tough thing to exactly specify because it feels like with this team, I'm not really sure what to expect with all their players healthy and then whether or not those players are all going to mesh. So to me, I think they have to kind of rely on their defensive intensity. Like we've seen this team kind of struggle defensively over this last 3 games, and I think that's the bigger key for them is that's going to ignite their offense. They kind of have shied away from what made them such a potent offense earlier in the season, and while they've had spurts here and there, it seems like things might be kind of regressing to the mean a little bit. And so I think they just need to play defense at the kind of level that we would expect from a Miami team. And in that case, I think that's why Davion Mitchell's return is going to be so crucial. I mean, they're going to get the scoring they need from Powell or Hero. Obviously, they're going to be able to, at least in my opinion, find a way to blend together. But as far as what they can do defensively, Mitchell is such a key component of that. So having him back is really crucial for Miami's chances to get a win.
Philip, I'm curious, as the guy covering the other team, who's the player? Because the Heat don't have that Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner guy like that, because it's always one of them in the lineup for the Magic, never both. Like that guy that's okay, if that guy goes off, then it's a problem, right? Like the Heat are kind of have this sort of ensemble thing going right now. So as the guy on the other side, who's the guy on the Heat that you're looking at and saying, that's the guy that scares me the most?
I mean, I think it's still, I mean, Norman Powell's had 2 really good games against Orlando this season. It's more right now, it's more the ability for both Powell and Hero to just hit a bunch of shots. Orlando is a better 3-point shooting team than they were last year. It'd be hard not to be, but they're still not a great 3-point shooting team. And while Orlando, I believe they still lead the league in fewest 3-point attempts allowed, and they do a really good job keeping teams off the 3-point line. I still feel like, especially right now with the offense kind of sputtering and the flux that's going to be on this team offensively, right now, I think that they're still liable to get to teams that can hit a bunch of threes. And that's still Miami. That's still a big piece of this Heat puzzle, whether it's Norman Powell going off. It's one thing if it's only Norman Powell making shots. And I think that was kind of the case on Friday. It's another thing if you could get Norm and Tyler Hero going. And obviously, we've seen Tyler Hero hit big shots against this Magic team. The Magic haven't had to deal with him yet. They were both very, very close games. Hero could be the kind of thing that tips it over the edge and be like, see, it was just one little thing. And obviously, Franz as well. So, I feel like that spurt ability from 3 that Miami has, that Orlando, they might have, like Des, you never know. Desmond Bane could have his 7-8 3-point game coming here pretty soon. But it's certainly not reliable from Orlando in the same way that it might be with Miami.
Fair point.
David, what do you think the lineup is going to be? Because on Friday, and no Tyler Hero in that game, but they started Khalil Ware with Bam. They went double big against the Magic. It didn't really work, but I understand the idea from Spoelstra. Let's try to limit what the Magic are going to do on the boards, try to cut down those second chance points and all this. It didn't work. The Magic outscored
keep Bam on Paolo and
keep Bam on
guarding
Paolo.
Carter.
Exactly. And so there's going to be an element of that too, right? Like, do you start with Bam and Ware so that Bam is defending Paolo? Or do you just say, let's go small again, try to outshoot the Magic, to Philip's point there, and then maybe put Bam on a center, Wendell Carter Jr. presumably starting in this one, and then probably put Wiggins on Paolo, which, Wiggins has the size, but maybe not the strength there. It might be a little bit of a mismatch.
Yeah, I think I'd go for the double big lineup personally. But I think Spo just prefers leaning to the small ball lineups. I think he's just such a big fan of what Mitchell provides both offense and defense that I think he's kind of missed him over the last couple of games. And I think that's why he'll probably wind up getting the start. I mean, personally, again, I would have started Ware because I think that's the better matchup. It kind of skews more towards Miami's strengths and being able to keep Orlando off the boards. It's been a problem for them in the past. So to me, I would go that route, but I just tend to think that Spo is going to go with a small ball of Mitchell, Hero, Powell, and Wiggs and Bam as a starting lineup.
I agree with you, and I disagree with you. I agree with you that that's exactly what Spoelstra is going to do. I disagree that that's the wrong decision. I would prefer to try to space out Orlando and try to beat them that way and try to get it played to that up-tempo type of style, bring Ware off the bench. But Philip, like when you're a similar question to what I asked you originally, but when the starting lineups are announced half an hour before the game, what's the starting lineup that the Magic fans don't want to see?
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily a starting lineup they don't want to see. And that's not disrespect to Miami. It's just I think the focus is still more on yourself. And I think the Magic feel confident that they can attack whatever team that's going to be put in front of them because and it's not even just that. It's that where we're at in the season, and this is maybe one of the intrinsic problems with the Cup, is we're not peaking at the end of the season right now. Right now, I think the Magic are probably a little bit more focused on how do we get Paolo healthy and kind of going and him rolling. And so it's not necessarily important who he's facing. Like, would it be better if Paolo didn't have to go up against Bam Adebayo, who's a really good defender? Would they prefer to play Andrew Wiggins? Absolutely. I think the double big lineup would be better for Orlando in this sense, especially with Franz out. I think Franz being out definitely plays a factor in what Miami's going to do with their starting lineup too, because, when you got to deal with 2 6'10" forwards, you probably don't want to be super small at the 3. And so Wiggins at the 3 makes a little bit more sense there. Now that you have Tristan da Silva, who, yeah, he's a good player and can attack a little bit, but nowhere near the threat.
You're not making lineups. You're not making lineup decisions based on Tristan da Silva.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, I think Orlando, again, Orlando did fine against the double big lineup. They stayed, I don't know if they won those minutes, but they stayed in the game, with that group in. They got Spo to go away from it. It didn't work out the way that they completely wanted it to. So I don't think the Magic are completely uncomfortable with either lineup. But, I think if you're Orlando and your goal right now is how do we get Paolo integrated and playing like he's healthy, not having to go up against Bam Adebayo, all defensive, potential all defensive team player, that is definitely would be a better space for them.
Let's get to the meat of this thing. How does each team win this game in advance to the next round of the NBA Cup and take a trip to Las Vegas? We'll talk about that next here on this crossover episode of Locked On Heat and Locked On Magic.
Today's episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. Right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And what makes this even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality service. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage, but for a lower price. Setup takes only a few minutes, and you can bring your own phone and number without any issues. And the service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. It feels good knowing that you're overpaying just to stay connected. Turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. That's mintmobile.com/LockedOnNBA. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required, $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only, is less than 35 gigabytes. May slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for details. We'll be right back.
All right, so the semifinals of the NBA Cup, December 13th in Las Vegas. That's this Saturday. In order to get there, one of these teams has to win on Tuesday. The winner of this game takes on the winner of Raptors versus Knicks. Quick prediction here. Who do we like in that Raptors-Knicks game? And who do we think is facing off to the winner of Heat Magic on Saturday? Philip, start with you.
I think it's going to be the Knicks. I think the Knicks, just their offense is just rolling. They again, these single elimination games come down to star players making star plays. They got the star in Jalen Brunson. I think Toronto slowed down a little bit from their hot start. So even on the road where the Knicks really struggle, I'm taking the Knicks over the Raptors.
David?
Same. I can't argue with what Philip said. I think the Knicks are just a better team, and then they'll play better against this, a surprisingly good Raptors team that has cooled off a little bit.
Yeah, the Raptors have lost 6 of their last 7, 5 of their last 6, something like that. But the game is played in Toronto, so we'll see how that factors into things. But yeah, I think if I had to make a pick, I would pick the Knicks to
Sorry,
advance. Sean. Sorry, Sean. Yeah, he was just surprised that they've made it this far. So, as are we, David. The Heat. This is the first time they have ever advanced this far in the NBA Cup. The Magic made it this far last year, as we discussed. But let's look at the keys to advance past this one. Philip, when you're looking at the Orlando Magic, what do they have to do? What things do they have to do? One, plural, take it either way, but to win this game.
I think the biggest thing is they have to control the tempo. I know a lot's been made about Miami and the pace that they're playing at, and Orlando's trying to play a lot faster too. And Friday's game felt more like a Magic Heat game than the first game did. I still think this game comes down to who's in control of how fast things are played. Who's creating turnovers, who's getting out in transition off turnovers, who's getting out in transition off of misses, who decides when you slow down and when you speed up. I think the team that controls the tempo of the game and is in the most control is maybe this is too generic, but in this game especially, I feel like the team that feels like they're controlling the speed at which they're playing, that's the team that's going to have the upper hand in this game.
David, what are you watching?
I think the turnover battle is going to be crucial, in terms of like that the pace that Philip was talking about. If Miami can have one of those great games where they're aggressive defensively, force turnovers, Orlando pretty good at hanging onto the ball. But if Miami is a little bit more able to impose their defensive tenets and to kind of shift that in their favor, I think we'll see more of the fast-paced offense that Miami was known for earlier this season. But aside from that, I think a key point would be hitting their three-point shots. Like, that's so crucial for Miami's offense. I know it's overly simplistic to say make or miss, but with Miami's offense, it just seems like they've got to be able to take a high number of three-point shots, and they got to be able to hit it at a pretty decent clip too, especially against a good Magic defense.
Yeah, I agree. When I think the three things that the Heat need to accomplish: make their threes, to David's point. The turnovers was exactly what I had written down. They only forced 10 turnovers against Orlando on Friday. That's going to limit the tempo, right? To Philip's point. Like, if Miami's able to get out on the break, then all of a sudden they're going to get on.
I believe Miami had 7 turnovers in the third quarter on Friday, and that's when the game.
That's when that's when the Magic really took control of that thing. And then what I said earlier, the second chance points, Miami got outscored 12-2 in second chance points on Friday. That's not how you win the math battle, right? If you're losing the turnover battle and you're losing the second chance points, it's almost a miracle. And it kind of felt like a miracle in the moment that was even a one possession game, that they had a chance at the end there to win that game. If the Heat would have made that shot at the end, we would have qualified that as stealing one on the road. I mean, Absolutely. They really had no business of winning that one. But yeah, the Heat have to make more threes, or at least keep it even, keep the second chance points at least even, and then probably win the turnover battle, and therefore you probably control the tempo of the game. Do we want to make predictions?
I mean, they're going to freezing cold take us anyway.
they will. Go ahead, Philip.
I do think, and I hope Magic fans don't yell at me for this, I do think Miami's going to win this game. I think that, especially if this weren't the first game without Franz, it'd be a completely different story. If this weren't Paolo's third game back, it would be a different story. But they're going to need Paolo to be Paolo. And frankly, Paolo does not look like Paolo yet. And he's still on a little bit of a minute restriction. He was bumped up to 25 on Sunday. If he's only playing like 5-minute bursts instead of like his full complement of minutes, it's going to be, you're just counting on a lot of inconsistent players, whether it's Desmond Bane, who's struggling to finish at the rim right now, Jalen Suggs, who, it's a coin flip on any given play for whatever chaos he's going to bring. I just don't know if the Magic have enough offensive push, especially with Tyler Hero back. I still think this will be a close game. I don't think the Magic Heat are capable of not playing close games anymore.
Yeah.
And so I do anticipate it will be tense in the Kia Center. But I don't think the Magic are set up right now to play a game of this magnitude with where they're at in their season.
David, I'm not falling for it. Are you? That's a classic reverse jinx. I'm not falling for that. 1 second. Are you kidding?
No,
coming on a crossover, be like, yeah, the Heat will win. David, do the right thing here.
No, I gotta agree with Philip, man. Honestly, I really think he's saying, look, I've known Philip a long time. He's always spoken the truth. I know at heart he wants to make it a reverse jinx, but I think he's really saying what he really believes. Because I think it kind of speaks to Franz's impact, though. I mean, for Heat fans that haven't watched the Magic, to take away their cog, really basically the engine of this team, and just kind of ask Banchero when he's still recovering or hasn't gotten to 100%.
No, David froze a little bit there.
I told you we were going to freezing cold take people here.
There it is. He got literally frozen. I'm going to take the Magic because I feel like I have to. We can't all three take the Heat. That means the Heat lose. So I'm taking the Magic. I think the Magic win this one, and that's the only way I could fend off the reverse jinx here. So that's going to do it for us today. This has been a crossover episode of Locked On Heat and Locked On Magic, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I want to thank David and Wes once again for hosting me on their show and for me hosting them on their show and all that jazz. But I want to thank David and Wes once again. As much as we don't like the Miami Heat and we want to silence all that red and black in the Kia Center on Tuesday, David and Wes are great guys. Always love chatting with them, and I'm sure we will see them plenty more the rest of the season. Still got 2 games at Miami to get through. So thanks, David and Wes, once again, and we'll see what turns out on Tuesday. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the formats that you download podcasts to your podcast enabling device. You can find us as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. We're getting close to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. So help me feel good about myself. I need words of affirmation. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Magic today. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more written Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. We will, of course, be back tomorrow on Locked On Magic to talk more about this game against the Miami Heat, recap it. But don't forget, if you made Locked On Magic part of your Spotify wrap, prove it on social media, and you can secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. Again, to check out the Everydayer Club, go to lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We'll be back again tomorrow again to recap the Magic's NBA Cup quarterfinal. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.